Welcome back to another episode of the Katrina Johnson Show. So happy to have you with me today. Remember to subscribe, share the podcast, leave comments. I would love to hear from you guys. Also, you can follow me online at katrinajohnson.online or on Instagram at I am Katrina Johnson. I thank you again for joining me, and let's get into the show. Welcome back to another episode of the Katrina Johnson Show. Happy and so grateful that you are joining me. Thank you for listening. Well, this is a new season. Our topic for this season is, what does living your best life really mean? If you follow me on social media, I am always talking about living your best life. Why? Because I feel that right now, at this time in my life, that's exactly what I'm doing. So when I say living my best life, I'm talking about something that is personal to me. Your definition of living your best life may be different for you. Just like success. Success is different for me than it is for you and for others. Everybody has their own definition of what success is. Well, I believe it's the same when we talk about living our best life. So I will be sharing over the next several weeks different areas in my life that make living my best life important. And so today I'm just going to kind of talk about the best life and what that means. And I might hit on one of those particular topics when it comes to living my best life. But I just want to be clear that when I give examples of what works for me, I am giving those examples because if it worked for me, it could possibly work for you. I am constantly in growth mode as far as studying and learning and, investing in myself and educating myself in order to be a better me. And so when I find that something works for myself, I will share it. But ultimately, everyone is responsible for their own journey. You're responsible for what you deem works for you. What works for me may not always work for you, but I will share whatever I share. But I like to be clear that I don't ever want to be perceived as the person that is the expert. Okay, I don't consider myself an expert really in any form or fashion, but I do know some things. And, if people want to label me as being an expert here or there on something, that's fine. But what I'm saying is I'm constantly learning just like everyone else. But I will share the things that have worked for me. But I really like to encourage and inspire people to find out what works for them. And my biggest thing is that people will listen to what I have to say, be inspired enough to want to do better, live better, to want to live their best life, to figure out what is missing or maybe what's in your life that needs to go, that needs to, be wiped out so that you can live your best life. And again, it is not the same for everyone. We always hear people giving their advice and tips, and this is how you do it. You do this, you do this, you do this. That's okay. That's fine. But I do know just from experience, and I'm being very transparent, it doesn't always work that easy. Listening to Jane Doe, just hypothetically speaking, let's say Jane Doe says, okay, so this is what you need to do to get to that next level. Sometimes that works depending on what it is, but it may not always work depending on my situation. So when I speak to people and I'm on this podcast and I'm giving some information for your inspiration, for your ultimate transformation, I am giving it from a point of just being able to share and hoping that something I say would spark something in you. So just getting that out the way, I just want to begin to just give a little background, which I might have shared before. I don't think I'm going to get into any of the particular areas where my life has changed for the better. I will probably start that next week, but I'm just going to give a little background on living your best life. And I don't think anyone living get up in the morning and say, I don't want to have a good day. I hope not, but I think everybody that is breathing, they want the best for themselves and for those around them, those that they love. And they want to really do well, I think, and do better and do good. That's what I think. And maybe that's because that's how I think. So living your best life is having the understanding of perhaps why you are in the situation you are and coming to grips on how you can get out of that situation. That's where it really begins. And I don't know if I said that right, but let me just say it again. In order for me to come to the point where I said, you know what? I am not living my best life. I can do better. Something happened. The light bulb came on. And so it hit me one day. And I said, you know what? There is definitely something wrong here. There is something wrong with this picture. And in order for this to be corrected, I've got to do something. If you don't come to that realization, then nothing is going to change because it starts with you. It starts with us. And so if you're not at that point though, and you know that you're unhappy, but that light did not come on, that light bulb did not come on. And so you're in this position where you really want to get out, but you really don't know how. It's because that light bulb didn't come on, meaning maybe there's something that hasn't triggered it yet. But there was a trigger in my life that I said, okay, this is it. Things have got to change. But I was very cognitive as to where I was, how I got there, and now I had to make a decision. Do I want to stay or do I want to leave? And literally, that's what happened. So my situation, as I've shared before, back in 2016, I left a marriage, and that was the best thing that I could have done at that time. It really was. And from that point on, I have been just really in growth mode and living my best life. And I'm still growing to live an even better life. I constantly think of advancement in my life and growing and learning. And that's the reason why I will continue to live my best life. It's good today. It's better than it was yesterday, but it'll be better tomorrow. And it'll just keep getting better and better and better. And that is because of the decision I made in 2016. And I'm not saying marriage is not good. Just that was one that just didn't work for me. And that marriage, getting out of it was a real big struggle, because being a woman of faith and being taught that God hates divorce, and that was just something that was weighing on me very heavily because I wanted to do what was right by God. However, I don't believe the God that I serve wants me to be unhappy, wants me to be misused, wants me to be disrespected, or any of that. I had to come to grips. I had to say, okay, this may, in the eyes of others, look like I'm making a very selfish decision, a very unthoughtful decision. But you know something? I did it anyways. Because deep within my soul, in my spirit, I knew if I didn't take that leap, that step out of that situation, I would still be there. And ultimately, I would be unhappy. So when I say I'm living my best life, again, it's not as at the best. Well, let me say this. It's not the best that it can be. because as long as I'm growing and learning, there's always better, right? We can always improve our lives. If I'd stayed in that marriage, again, I would be where I was. I don't know that things would have got any better, to be honest with you, because I'm not in it right now. It's hard to say. Maybe it would have, but I'm saying 17 years and, do the math, right? And it doesn't mean that it was 17 years of misery. Don't get me wrong. But it was enough of not being satisfied for me to leave. And so though others may look at it, especially other faithful people in the church that would tell me, stay with your marriage, make it work, and all of that, I had to make the decision myself. I had to take that chance. And that was a decision I made. And that was something between me and God, period. We are individuals, even when we're in relationships. So when you're in a relationship, you compromise, right? And there's just a whole different mechanism. And so when you're in a marriage situation, I mean, you are committed. You want to be with that person for the rest of your life, but it doesn't always turn out that way. It really doesn't. We would want it to. We want that fairy tale. I would love to get married, again, and have that fairy tale type of a marriage relationship where it's peaceful and we understand each other and we listen to each other and there's no bitterness in the relationship. That would be great. That would really be great. But if it didn't happen, then as far as the marriage goes, if I don't ever get married again, I've gotten to that point where I'm good with that. But if I do happen to meet someone and we hit it off really good and, I decide to get married, I'm going to be a lot wiser than I was years ago. So I think that me being wiser than I was years ago will matter, will make a difference, because I have been working on myself and I'm continually working on myself. And because I'm working on myself, this is the reason why I'm living my best life. You hear me say it, and in some people's eyes, it may be, you're blinging out of control. You got the nicest car and you got money in the bank and, it's raining dollars or whatever. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm not talking about material things, though I have been blessed with some material things in a really different way, in a miraculous way. So I know God is on my side, and I know I serve a forgiving God. And if anybody thinks anything different, then that's them. And what I mean by that, there's, like I said, a lot of people would not agree with what I did. And I wrestled with that at the very beginning. But ultimately, it was my decision. And I haven't seen God remove his hand from my life since the day I made that decision. And if I could say it, he's been blessing me ever since. So there's a lot to learn when we know that we have to make a decision. There's a lot to learn about whether or not you listen to the opinion of others or you go with what's inside, with your gut, right? With that, what I call that peace, that following peace. So I just wanted to share a little bit of that today, letting you know what I look at when I say living my best life. And I want you to, as you listen to this podcast, begin to think about what living your best life means to you. Next week, I'm going to go into, again, some of the different areas of living my best life, what it means. And I'll just go over them right now, letting you know what I'll be going over. And I will be talking about, for me, what living my best life means. And one of the things it means is happiness. Living my best life also means stability. It means peace. It means security, good health, self-sufficiency, and growth-minded. growth mindedness. I will be discussing all of those within the next several weeks. And I hope that you tune in again. If you know someone that needs to hear this podcast, share it with them. And as always, stay inspired. Let's keep the conversation going by emailing me at katrina@katrinajohnson.online. That's katrina@katrinajohnson.online. So grateful that you joined me on this episode. Remember, information plus inspiration equals transformation. And until next time, stay inspired.